Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and today I wanted to start a new reading vlog. So if you saw my last video, I was talking about all of the countries that I've read from in the Americas and the Caribbean. So today I wanted to try out some books from countries that I've never read from before. It's sort of like a loose round the world vlog, but I'm not sure that I want to read a book from every country just for the sake of reading a book from that country. But there are some books from the Americas that I've meant to read for a really long time and I've just never got around to. So I'm using this as an excuse to A, buy those books and B, read those books. So I thought I would pick a book from Central America, a book from South America and a book from the Caribbean. And then I also have a library hold for a non-fiction book from Uruguay, so if that comes in then I will also read that, but sometimes my library can be really slow, so we'll just need to see. So the first book is a book that I've already started, and that's The Country Under My Skin by Giaconda and Belli. This is a memoir about her life. Obviously, she was a revolutionary in Nicaragua in the Sandinista movement. I've never read anything about Nicaragua. I don't really know much about their history, and I think this will be a really good entry point where it still has a bit of human interest. I've read about 30 pages so far and I'm really enjoying it. We don't know too much about what's going on yet, it's just sort of an introduction to her life, but the writing style is really beautiful. I think it's going to sort of flip back and forward in time, which I quite like in a memoir. So I'm really excited for that. I actually took this book out of my library last year and then someone reserved it and I had to send it back, but I managed to get it for only like £2 or £3 online, so I'm quite happy with that. Then the next book that I have been meaning to read for a really long time, or the next author rather, is Jamaica Kincaid. She is from Antigua and Barbuda, or maybe she's just from Antigua, but anyway, I think they're classed as one country. And I picked up Lucy by Jamaica Kincaid, mainly because this was the cheapest one I could get online. And also when I looked at the synopsis of this book, it sounded really interesting. It's about a woman from Antigua, Lucy, who moves to America to work for a sort of rich family as an au pair, I think. I think this one will be really interesting. I worked as an au pair before, and I really understand that it's a strange situation living in another family's house, so I'm really intrigued to see what this one's going to be about. She's an author that I've been meaning to read for years and years, and her books just aren't that easy to find. My last library didn't have any of her books. My current library doesn't have any of her books. I don't know why not. She is a very well loved and respected author, so I'm not sure why, but I'm really excited to get to this. So that's one book from Central America with Nicaragua and one book from the Caribbean with Antigua. So I thought I'd pick a book from South America. One of the big countries I've not read from yet is Peru, and when I was looking up books from Peru, the main author is Vargas Llosa, and his most famous book seems to be The Feast of the Goat, but that's not actually set in or about Peru. It seems to be set in Uruguay, I think. So I decided not to go for that one, and I decided to go for Conversation in the Cathedral instead. This is quite a big book. I did not realise it was going to be this big. When I picked it up, I know very little about this. I think the cathedral is a bar in Lima, and it's sort of a conversation between these two people, and they start to get, from the reviews I read, they start to get drunker and drunker as the book goes on, so that's going to be interesting. And then the non-fiction I've reserved is Open Veins of Latin America by Eduardo Galeano. He's a Uruguayan author. I don't think I've ever read any books from Uruguay, but this is a non-fiction. I think it's quite a seminal text about Latin America and how it's been exploited by the US and just by other countries throughout, I think, the last like 500 years. I think it spans quite a long period of time. So I'm really interested by that one. I'm really hoping that my library book hold comes in time. I'm going to Edinburgh for a few days today. I need to get a haircut, I'm going to see some friends, and I'm going to go and see my mum. So I'm going to take The Country Under My Skin for the train, so I'm hoping I'll get quite a bit read, and I will check back in when I have more thoughts. Hello. I am back from my trip to Edinburgh and Glasgow. I went round the Botanic Gardens in Edinburgh. I did some book shopping. I went to my friend's when she made me a nice like aubergine pasta for dinner. And then I went and saw my mum, and we went to the beach, and we went to visit a wind farm as well. So it's been quite a varied couple of days. I did manage to do some book shopping. I will have filmed a book haul, and it should already be uploaded by the time you're watching this. And yeah, I've been doing some reading as well. So I've made quite good progress with The Country Under My Skin. I think you can sort of see I'm about 130 pages in, and so far I'm really enjoying this. I really like her writing style. It's very descriptive, but like not overwritten, I don't feel. And at the point we're at just now, she's joined the Sandinistas, and she's been sort of doing some undercover work for them, sort of gathering information. She's got quite a lot of contacts throughout the city that she's been speaking to, but her husband knows nothing about this. She has two kids, two daughters, and she's like very, the love for her children really shines through, but that's not putting her off doing all of this really dangerous work for the Sandinistas. So it's a really interesting, like, I knew nothing about this. It is sort of making me quite stressed because she keeps getting followed by people. There's a lot of, she feels a lot of anxiety about it. She'll be at home and she'll look out and there's like a jeep sitting outside for days, and some of the people that she knows have already been killed in sort of shootouts. She's at the point where she's had to leave the country now a couple of times, to wait until things die down before she can come back. So it's definitely getting into the sort of more meat of the action of the book. But it's a really interesting memoir, and yeah, as I say, some of her writing is really nice. So even just like the descriptions of the city and stuff. So at this point in the book, she's talking about winter in Managua, which is the city where she lives. And yeah, it just, some of the sentences are really beautiful. So she writes, I can still recall the dense atmosphere that December afternoon. The sky was grey and it was unseasonably hot and windless. I had fled from the crowds that packed the stores downtown, feeling I would suffocate. I left Mariam's presents to be gift wrapped and went home wondering whether I was catching a cold or feeling the effects of the first trimester of my pregnancy. I couldn't get into the Christmas spirit and was aware of the irony of the big, joyous Santa dressed for the North Pole who would find no chimneys in Nicaragua. The spray-painted snow, the alpine villages and shop windows, the plastic evergreens all irritated me. So I just think it's really well written, and yeah, I'm just really interested to see what happens next. It is about a topic that I know nothing about, so that's like all the bonus for me, because anything I learn I'm sort of interested in, amazed by. Whereas sometimes if you know quite a lot about a subject, you want something that does a really deep dive so you can learn more. Whereas at this point, like, any information is new information to me, so I'm really loving it. I then this morning also picked up Lucy by Jamaica Kincaid, just because I wanted a fiction to go along with the non-fiction. This is a really short book. It's only 160 pages, and I read 40 pages this morning, so I'm a quarter of the way through, and I'm loving this so far. I sometimes struggle with short books just because I feel like I can't quite get into them and they're done before I really feel like I've got into the story. But the writing in this is so beautiful. This is about Lucy, who is an au pair from Antigua, and she moves to New York to be an au pair for this really rich family, and she sort of hates the family and hates New York, but all of it's a new experience for her. So she's like, at one point the mother of the family takes her to this park to show her the daffodils, and she's so angry about the daffodils because she's grown up her whole life in colonial education, hearing poems about daffodils, about flowers that just don't exist where she lives. So when she goes and sees them, she's so angry about the fact that this is the first time she's seeing a daffodil, and everyone's like talking about as if this is this amazing thing, and she's like, this is what I've heard about my whole life. Like, this flower is like, I suppose when you think about daffodils, they're not really that incredible. And she's like, when she arrives, it's January, so she's discovering winter for the first time. Everyone's talking about how great spring is going to be, and she's like, she doesn't understand how it's possible that things are going to change so much in a couple of months in spring. She's like, I don't get it. So I'm really enjoying it. I think it's definitely very melancholic. Like, she is not having a good time in this au pair family. Everything about them seems to be sort of irritating her, and just the cultural differences. So she tells the family that she had a dream about them, that she had a dream that one of them was chasing her around the house, and then she is running away trying to escape, and she falls down this hole and it's filled with a pile of snakes, and they just go completely quiet. But what she's trying to express is that she only dreams about people if they matter to her or if they're important to her. So she's trying to tell them, like, I had a dream about you, like, that means that you matter to me. But they're like, oh, that doesn't sound good. So I'm just really enjoying it. I'll just read a bit from the first page that I really enjoyed. She writes, as we drove along, someone would single out to me a famous building, an important street, a park, a bridge that when built was thought to be a spectacle. In a daydream I used to have, all these places were points of happiness to me. All these places were lifeboats to my small drowning soul, for I would imagine myself entering and leaving them, and just that, entering and leaving over and over again, would see me through a bad feeling I did not have a name for. I only knew it felt a little like sadness, but heavier than that. Now I saw these places, they looked ordinary, dirty, worn down by so many people entering and leaving them in real life, and it occurred to me that I could not be the only person in the world for whom they were a fixture of fantasy. So I just thought, yeah, like, I'm really loving her writing, and yeah, I think I'll fly through this one, so I will keep you posted. Hello. So it is a few days later and I have some reading updates. Please excuse the terrible lighting. It has been absolutely pouring down all day. In fact, all weekend it's been pretty miserable. It's like mid-June as I'm filming this, and the weather has been truly atrocious so far this summer. We had a bit of nice weather in May, and it's down to like 8 degrees Celsius. I don't know what's going on, and I really hope it improves because I can't be dealing with this for the rest of the summer. Anyway, yes, when I last spoke to you, I had started Lucy by Jamaica Kincaid. I have now finished Lucy by Jamaica Kincaid and I absolutely love this. I think in my last update I was saying I was really enjoying it. That didn't change. The tone of it throughout, I really loved it. It's a really short book and like the font is quite big, so it's probably actually even shorter than this. I just loved Lucy as a narrator. I thought that she had a really interesting perspective to bring on this family that she was au pairing with, because she sees that they're very privileged, but she doesn't hate them for it. She's envious in a way, but for example, with the mum of the family, she has quite a good relationship with her. She thinks that she's a kind person, and she says, oh, some people may think that it's easy to be kind if you are in such a privileged position. However, there are so many people that aren't kind, that are privileged, so she is able to sort of separate the privilege from them as people, and yeah, as much as she's judgmental towards them, it seems like she is still able to appreciate their qualities. But yeah, I really love this. I think, if she's sort of 19 in this book, as a narrator, I think if you've been 18, 19 and wanted to leave home, wanted to have a fresh start, a change of scene, and then you get there and you realize that like maybe it's not as good as you thought it was going to be. That's kind of what this book was giving, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the prose was beautiful. There were so many bits that I tabbed. She has quite a difficult relationship with her mother and the rest of her family at home, and that's sort of discussed later in the book, and it makes a lot of sense as to why she is the way she is. But yeah, I don't really want to say too much more about it because it is a very short book, but I will definitely read more of Jamaica Kincaid. I would like to read Annie John next. I think that it sounds like quite a similar sort of narrator, but maybe a bit younger. So it seems like Annie John has a really nice upbringing until she reaches a certain age. She has a good relationship with her mother, and then things start to change. And I think that this almost feels like the older version of this, that she's now looking back on her childhood and questioning her relationship with her family. So really loved this. Everyone said Jamaica Kincaid was a great writer. I should not have doubted that. I've also finished The Country Under My Skin by Giaconda Belli. I don't really know how to feel about this book for various reasons. So it's quite a long book. It's 370 pages and the font is quite small. It packs a lot into it. I think it depends what you want to get out of this book. So this is a memoir. It doesn't say that it's not a memoir, but it's sort of a memoir of the Sandinista revolution in Nicaragua, but it's also obviously from her point of view. And I think that that's where, if you're reading this to learn more about the Sandinista revolution, it does give you that, but it's very much from her perspective. It talks a lot about her personal relationships, and sometimes that is with people within the revolution, so it's kind of relevant, but at other points it's not. She's just, she's discussing her children, she's discussing her relationships. She goes into exile for quite a large part of this book, so you're still hearing about the events that are going on, but from a removed perspective. She can only give her, it's a memoir, she can only give what she knows, or her view of things, but it's definitely a very, I don't want to say biased, but it's looking at it through her lens. So yeah, if you're wanting a book about the Nicaraguan Revolution, I would say that this is maybe a good place to start if you don't want something too in depth, but it doesn't really give you the key facts and the key dates. You get a bit of that, but I wouldn't feel confident going and speaking to someone about the Nicaraguan, the Sandinista revolution. There's a lot missing. However, at the same time, I would say that I did actually really enjoy a lot of the stuff about her personal relationships. Obviously, any sort of memoir needs to give you a lot of information about the person as well to make you interested. So I didn't know who she was before reading this book, so it's always a little bit strange reading a memoir of someone kind of random, especially when it's about their love life, when I thought I was reading it for the revolution aspect. But I did really enjoy the writing style in this. I thought it was a solid read. I'm just not sure that I got exactly what I wanted from it, but at the same time, maybe if it had been more in depth, it would have lost me and I'd have got bored. So yeah, not sure what to think about this, but I will mull it over for a few more days, and at the end of the video I'll come back and sum up. So that leaves me with two books to read, and my library book hold came in, so I have both of them. So I have Open Veins of Latin America by Eduardo Galeano. This is a non-fiction book. I did know that, but when it arrived and I saw all of the references at the back, I was like, oh, this is a proper non-fiction book, almost academic. I think I've heard him compared to Edward Said. I read a bit of Orientalism. I found it quite difficult to get through. So it's the same sort of social commentary. I'll read a bit of what it says off the back. So it says, first published in 1971, Open Veins of Latin America is now a classic, a book that over 35 years has inspired a continent and beyond. It says it remains a crucial text in understanding the dynamics of exploitation and resistance. This book is referenced in The Country Under My Skin, so that's quite interesting. I'm just gonna give it a go and see how the writing style is. I think if it's too dry, I might struggle to get through it, but it's not super long. It's 300 pages, so that's that. And then for fiction, I'm going to make a start on Conversation in the Cathedral. I'm a little bit scared of this one. It's 600 pages and I'm just worried that it goes a bit over my head. But yeah, I'm going to try and give this one a good go, and I'll come back to you once I've got more thoughts. Okay, so it is a few days later and I'm back with some updates. So I've started both Conversation in Cathedral and Open Veins of Latin America. And yeah, I have thoughts on both of them. So Conversation in Cathedral by Mario Vargas Llosa, I've read about a quarter of the book. I think I'm on page 150. And this book is quite strange. So it is a book about, at the very start of the novel, you're introduced to the main character who is a journalist. He works for a newspaper, not doing particularly interesting work, and he comes home on his lunch break and his wife says that their dog has been taken to the pound, that like two men came up to her while she was walking the dog on a lead and stole it from her and took it to the pound. So he goes to the pound to try and get his dog back, and when he gets there he discovers that the working conditions are really bad and that the men are paid per dog they pick up, so they will try and steal people's actual pets and pass them off as stray dogs to get money. And then as he's leaving the pound with his dog, he bumps into this man who used to be his family's chauffeur, and they go for a drink at this sort of kind of bar in a bit of a rougher area, and they spend sort of 4 hours drinking, and he comes home and his wife is quite annoyed, rightly so, because you know, she didn't know that the dog was still, he didn't phone her to tell her that he'd found the dog, so she was worried about her dog. And then the rest of the book, I think, is going to reflect back on their conversation in this bar and everything they talked about. So each chapter is sort of a different part of one of the characters' lives. So the journalist is reflecting back on his childhood and his sort of time at university, and the chauffeur is reflecting back on his family life, how he came to be a chauffeur, etc. What I would say is this book is so far quite difficult to understand, because throughout the chapters you're getting 2 conversations, sometimes more than 2 conversations, but at least 2 conversations tied together. So you get sections of the conversations that the characters are having in the past, and then intersecting it is the conversation they're having in the bar. So like the journalist will be describing his childhood, and then halfway throughout that there are questions from the chauffeur saying, oh, and how did you feel about that, blah blah blah. So at points though it's doing it multiple times. So for example, the journalist will be talking about when he joined the Communist Party when he was at university. So you'll get a conversation with him and his friends from university, and then like put in the middle of that you'll get a conversation between him and his family arguing about the fact that he's like seeming quite distant, and then you'll also get the conversation with him and the chauffeur in the cathedral, and it's all sort of like lines of dialogue in like interspersed. So it's quite tricky to get through. So far I'm quite enjoying it. The language in this, I'm not sure, well, I mean, the language in this is quite horrible. There's a lot of discussion of half-breeds. That is mentioned multiple times. That may be a translation thing, or it may be that the character that's saying it is like, it's not meant to be a likable character, but yeah, I'm really not enjoying that. When it's at its best, it feels almost like The Golden Notebook by Doris Lessing. You know, it's quite it's delving into a lot of different topics and then trying to bring it all together, which I'm enjoying, but at points there are bits I'm less interested in, and there are also bits that yeah, I'm a little bit confused about. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. this is definitely a book about Peru. It's about corruption in Peru. It's very political, quite overtly so. You know, as I say, the journalist is involved in the Communist Party when he's younger. His father is part of the sort of dictatorship in the government, and the chauffeur has a lot of background in politics as well. So it's definitely very overtly critiquing Peruvian politics. So from that point of view, it's really good. I feel like I'm learning a lot. So yeah, we'll see. And then the second book is The Open Veins of Latin America by Eduardo Galeano. I've only read maybe about 50 pages of this, 40 pages of this, and I'm absolutely loving it so far. So Eduardo Galeano is basically, as the title suggests, reflecting on 500 years of the pillaging of a continent by the conquistadors, and then it's going to go through time, I think. So it's separated up into chapters that talk about different resources. So we have the bit that I've just read is about silver and gold, sort of during the time of the conquistadors, and then how mining has sort of drained Latin America. And it's really interesting because it delves quite deep into the history, but also the reasons, like the real causes of why the resources are being drained more so than in other countries or other parts of the world. So yeah, it's really interesting from an economic point of view. I feel like it's, you know, it's not dumbing it down, but it's still quite readable. The writing in this is really beautiful, which I'm quite surprised about because it is like very much a straightforward non-fiction book, but some of his descriptions are really nice. So yeah, so far this I think could be my favourite. This could easily be a 5-star read, I think. So yeah, I'm going to see how it goes. This weekend, so it's Friday, I'm going to visit my friends in Glasgow this weekend, so I don't know if I'm going to get much reading done, but I will update you as soon as I have more. So I am back with an update that is also not too much of an update because I have not read very much of these books. So I decided to DNF Conversation in the Cathedral. I don't know if I'm going to DNF this forever. I didn't... This was a hard decision to make because there was nothing about this book that I was really disliking. It's just a very long book and I wasn't that invested, and I was about 150, 160 pages in, and I was just sort of getting to the point where I wasn't really motivated to pick it up. I didn't really care about where the story was going, but yeah, at no point was I like, this is terrible. When I was reading it, it was fine. It's just 600 pages long, and I just thought, there's so many other books I'm really excited to read. I don't want to, not waste, but you know, spend all this time reading a book that I'm ambivalent about. So that's a bit of a shame. I'm going to hold on to this book for a wee while longer just in case I feel the urge to pick it up again. When I was having a look at books from Peru, I really seem to be struggling to find any other authors apart from Mario Vargas Llosa. So that's also a bit concerning. If anyone has any recommendations for a Peruvian book, please let me know. Because yeah, when I've like read the synopsis of some of his other books, he seems to write a lot of sort of political crime type books, which it's not really my thing. So yeah, I'd like to try something else from Peru. So that's a bit of a shame because I was really hoping to enjoy this. And then I have not finished, but I am still reading Open Veins of Latin America. I'm going to definitely finish this, but not in this vlog. I just don't want to feel like I'm rushing through this. You know, it is non-fiction, it is fairly dense, there are a lot of facts and figures, and I don't want to feel like I have to be ploughing through it. Like, I want to take my time and savour it and enjoy it. So about 100 pages through out of about 280 pages, and yeah, I'll definitely finish this one over the next couple of weeks, but yeah, I'm just going to take it slow. So yeah, it's not been the most successful reading vlog. I'd say that, yeah, my least favourite, obviously, Conversation in the Cathedral, as I DNF'd it. probably followed by The Country Under My Skin. This was a solid read, as I said, but I just don't think that it was exactly what I was looking for from it, and that's potentially my fault, because you know this is her memoir, but for me it just didn't quite hit what I wanted it to do. But I did really enjoy it, so it almost feels a bit mean saying that, because this would easily be like a 4-star read. It was really good. I really enjoyed reading it. Yeah, it was just maybe a bit the mix of memoir and sort of historical fact was maybe not where I wanted it to be, but you know that's just personal. It's just because I haven't read anything about this. I wanted to know more. So that's that. And then out of Lucy and Open Veins of Latin America, like I'd say that these are both my favourites. I can't really choose between them. Obviously, not finished Open Veins of Latin America, but it's kind of a bit redundant trying to compare them. You know, Lucy is fiction, Open Veins of Latin America is all fiction. Yeah, it's impossible to compare, but I'm so happy that I finally picked up Jamaica Kincaid. I'll definitely read more of her work. I now own Autobiography of My Mother, so that'll probably be the next one I get to. And I'm also really happy that this sort of project has allowed me to pick up Open Veins of Latin America. This was a book that was sort of on my radar, but I really don't think that I would have prioritised it at all. So yeah, I'm really happy that I have picked this up. If you have any recommendations for books from any of these countries or any other countries in the Americas or the Caribbean, please do let me know. I will be doing more of these sort of vlogs. I think that the next one I'll do will maybe be African books, because after the Americas it's probably the continent where I've got so many, like I've got a lot of countries that I've not read anything from. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing that. It's always great to expand what you're reading. I just make sure that you're reading as diversely as possible. So yeah, I've really enjoyed doing this. And yeah, please subscribe if you'd like to see the next part of this project.